the book. All right. Good morning, people. Assalamu alaikum. Today we are talking intermittent fasting. Today is the fourth of our series on intermittent fasting. So if you have been joining me this week, we talked about intermittent fasting all week long. I'm doing a 4-part series on what are some of the benefits of fast. So you can actually scroll my IGTV as well as my Facebook page and look at the videos to talk about. We talked about how and why and the do's and don'ts of combining an intermittent fast with an Islamic fast. We talked about that on Tuesday, I believe. And today we are going to talk about extended fasts. So if you are just joining me, my name is Mubaraka Ibrahim. I am a health and happiness coach. And if you are here, you are now officially a part of my tribe. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Hajj, thank you for setting a reminder. Alhamdulillah, I'm glad. Wa alaikum salam. I'm glad that you set a reminder so you can come on and join us. And as we talk about this subject, that is sometimes the talk of the internet. But as you know, to me, it's not about what the internet says, it's what the science says. So what we are specifically going to talk about today is we are going to talk about intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting in an extended fast. So we talked earlier this week about fasting in terms of what's a minimum amount of fast in terms of intermittent fasting. What's the difference between intermittent, which is a wet fast, and Islamic fast, which is considered a dry fast, right? One, you can drink water, the other one, you cannot drink water. We talked about that earlier this week. We also clarified, and which I want to clarify again today, which is an intermittent fast. Let's clarify terminology. An extended fast is when you go without food or calories for longer than 24 hours. So we are using that as our definition of distinguishing between intermittent fasting and extended fast. So today we are specifically talking about extended fast. I'm going to try to leave a little time for some question and answer. And if we have some people on Clubhouse, we'll jump on there after we're done here so that we can talk about extended fast on there as well. So, we know that fasting, when I am specifically talking about fasting for all of my Muslim people that are joining us, right? We are not talking about an Islamic fast. We are talking about an intermittent fast. We're talking about fasting when you can drink water, you can drink coffee with no sweetener, no cream, and you can drink green tea, right? So that is what I am referring to in this definition of a fast. We are not talking about going without water when we talk about extended fast. So today we're going to talk about extended fast. I just want to do a quick pre-24-hour review with you. So when we are talking about intermittent fasting, we're specifically talking about going a minimum of 12 hours. So remember, anything less than 12 hours is not considered an intermittent fast. Side note, once again, we're not talking about an Islamic fast because that's sunrise to sunset. That could be 10 hours, that could be 11 hours. We're talking about an intermittent fast. And we set the minimum of 12 hours. So scientifically, it has been set as a minimum of 12 hours because at the 12-hour mark, our liver depletes itself of glycogen, right? So glucose, you eat a sugar, you eat a carbohydrate, it goes into your body, it's converted into glucose, which is the sugar of the body, and then it is converted into glycogen as the sugar that is stored inside of the liver and the muscles, right? So your body depletes itself of glycogen. The liver can only hold a certain amount. So if you're not actually eating, your body's like, all right, bet, I'm just gonna grab some glycogen from my liver. But after a while, the liver just don't have no more, right? And so what happens when your body depletes itself of glycogen? Your insulin level lowers. Ding, ding, ding. That is an essential component of the fast, right? So this is the reason why eating and drinking and calling it a fast is not really a fast, because it raises insulin level. So technically, as I mentioned in previous videos, there is to say somebody is doing a juice fast is really an oxymoron, because it's not really a fast. You're not getting the physiological benefits of intermittent fasting, right? So hour 16, we hear about 16:8 all the time. There's no special thing that happens to your body at a 16-hour mark. The main reason why it is the recommended time for people to begin an intermittent fasting or to have as an intermittent fasting lifestyle is because it is, on a practical sense, it is the easiest for people to do. So most people are like, okay, I can skip breakfast and just eat at 12 noon, right? And so that is what a 16:8 is. It's stop eating at 8 p.m. and then eating again at 12 noon the next day. So that is a practical lifestyle for most people, which is why you hear that as the most common way that people practice intermittent fasting. But beyond that, let's talk about the physiological things that happens in your body, because you know me, my purpose is not to convince you to do one type of eating plan or another type of eating plan, right? I'm not trying to convince you that this is the only way. My goal is to teach you, and so that you can understand the physiological benefits that food and movement does to your body, so you can make an informed decision about your health, right? So don't choose to do one thing or another simply because it looked like a really cool meme or somebody with 1,000 followers, 10,000 followers told you to do it, right? Oh, she has a lot of followers, I should do it. Nope, don't do that to yourself. Don't do it to yourself. Understand how food and movement actually affects you on a physiological level. I am a huge proponent that hormones are in understanding how your hormones work and respond to food and movement is an essential part of you understanding how your body is going to react, right? So one of the hormones we know is our domino hormones. It is insulin. I'm going to keep coming back to insulin because it's super, super important to me that you understand what insulin does, because most metabolic disorders all boils down to insulin. What your insulin is doing, whether it's going up or down, right? Controlling your insulin is directly affecting obesity. Controlling your insulin is directly affecting diabetes, which is a huge epidemic, right? Not just in the United States, but all over the world, right? So that's important. Insulin is the cornerstone of issues with PCOS. So insulin is a huge thing. Your insulin is also your inflammatory hormone, right? When insulin is high, if you have inflammatory diseases, everything from Crohn's disease to arthritis, you can actually help manage it and minimize the symptoms by controlling your insulin level. So that is why I am so focused on insulin. Of course, it is not by any means the only hormone that people should be concerned of, but I think that in terms of becoming metabolically healthy, it is the key hormone that is going to create a domino effect, either good or bad, inside of your body. So first thing, and the full purpose and essential purpose of doing an intermittent fast, no matter how long you do it, is that your hormone insulin lowers, because insulin is a fat storage hormone. When insulin is high, it sends a signal for your body to store fat. So when we think about weight loss, I don't want you to think about kind of like, I'm eating this food for calories. You need to understand what each food is doing to your insulin level, because it is going to determine not the calories, whether or not your body is going to store a food as fat or burn it as fuel. So the second hormone that we are going to talk about really quickly, because as we go down the line, we know, okay, hour 12, insulin starts to lower. Woohoo, that's a great thing. Hour 16, it's going to lower a little bit more. And the other thing that happens when your insulin level lowers is you start burning fat as fuel instead of carbohydrates. So you start going into ketosis. I laugh and say it very tongue-in-cheekly, but it's absolutely true that Ramadan is Shahrul Ketosis. It is the month of ketosis. Every Muslim that's fasting will experience ketosis at some point in their day. I'm just saying. It's so beneficial that Allah made it a part of our religion. Just saying. Not trying to convince you. Just stating a couple of facts here and there. Anyway, I will digress. All right. Hour 18, hormone that goes up is HGH, human growth hormone. So when and all of this is based on research studies, right? Easy stuff for you to Google on PubMed. I'm not going to tell you like, oh, it's from this university or that university. You can Google any of this stuff on PubMed or on Google in general. Hour 18, HGH, human growth hormone, goes up. So what benefits do we see or most people want from human growth hormone? Human growth hormone is your fat burning hormone, right? It works the opposite as insulin. Insulin tells your body to store fat. Human growth hormone tells your body to burn fat. So we want human growth hormones. Human growth hormone increases when you gain more muscle, when you do resistance training, as well as when you hit about the hour 18 window. Now, this is important because when it comes to weight loss, that is when you enter the sweet spot. It has been deemed the sweet spot in the community of and research arena of intermittent fasting. Because once your human growth hormone kicks in or kicks up, your fat burn, your metabolism, lipolysis is the technical term for it. Lipolysis is the process of your body literally breaking down a fat cell. So when they looked at lipolysis so one research study looked at lipolysis over a 3-day fast, a 3-day water fast, right? Hour 18 to hour 24, and I'm going to correct myself because I've been last live I said 18 to 20, but when I looked at the research to just double check all of my information before I came on today, it's actually longer than I thought, than I had mentioned yesterday. So it's between hour 18 and 24, not just 20, but all the way to 24. There is a huge spike in lipolysis. Right? So what happens is your fat burning hormone, your insulin lower, your lipolysis starts to gradually rise. When you hit hour 18, there's a huge spike, right? Body is like, okay, we have to kick up this fat burning because we need more energy because it's been 18 hours since we've had food. And so we are now going to go into overdrive to burn fat because we're going to use that for energy, right? Because our body can either use carbohydrates or it can use fat. So hour 18, there's a huge spike like this. That's also the hour that human growth hormone kicks in that contributes to that spike. And then it begins to even out a little bit more. And there is another spike that we'll talk about when we get to that hour, right? So hour 18, human growth hormone rises, your metabolism increases, your fat burning increases during that hour. 24 hours. What happens at hour 24? You've gone 24 hours with no food. What happens at that point? So it is at that point that autophagy increases. Autophagy is your body's natural way to detoxify, recycle, and restore the actual cells in your body, right? That is a super important part of using fasting as a detoxification mechanism. Let's talk about that just really quickly. What exactly is a detox? Okay, so there is really no thing that you can do that's going to create a detox for your body that is going to do more than what your body naturally does. You can do things to support your body's natural way of detoxification. The fact that you're sitting here listening to me, that you breathing fine and you're able to get up and move, and if you are relatively healthy, then your body is detoxing. It's detoxing every minute of every day. That is the purpose of your kidneys. That is the purpose of your liver. That is the reason why you sweat. That is literally the reason why you breathe. Breathing is a detoxification for our lungs, right? When you have foreign objects or viruses or bacteria or whatever inside of your respiratory system, what happens? We increase that breathing by coughing, by sneezing, right? So literally the breath work that we do is a form of detoxification. You can, of course, increase and support the detoxification of your organs through certain foods, certain nutrients. But when it comes to cellular detoxification, there is only one research and scientifically proven way to do that, and that is through autophagy. So here is the kicker. Remember when I talked to you about how important insulin is? And it is the domino hormone. We naturally go into autophagy generally when we are sleeping, right? That is actually our time for our body to naturally detoxify because we're not eating. This allows our insulin level to lower. So this is one of the reasons why you should not be eating late at night. You shouldn't, obviously can't eat when you're sleeping because our body almost forces us into a state where it's like, hey, I need the digestive system to rest because I got other stuff to do. We got other organs to detoxify and cleanse. So your autophagy naturally happens in the evening time or when you're going without food. When you go 24 hours or more without food, autophagy increases. So what exactly is autophagy? Autophagy is the recycle, reuse, and restoration of your cells. Literally, you are doing a cleansing on a cellular level. So if you think about our cells as a whole bunch of little plates, right? And as we get older and our body starts, just doing our everyday activities, sometimes a plate may get a chip in it. Sometimes a plate may just crack in half. Sometimes a plate just gets old and you just can't use it anymore, right? What autophagy does is it goes into these plates, right? The plates is a metaphor for our cells, and it begins to restore them. It takes the plate that has a crack and say, hey, you know what? This plate over here is broken into pieces and I can't really repair it. So I'm going to take a little piece from this plate and I'm going to actually repair this little crack on this plate. And then that makes that plate whole again. And that makes that cell works great. And in fact, I think I need to go buy some more plates. And so I'm going to create more cells. And so we're going to actually restore our system by creating new cells in this particular organ or in this particular spot. Your body goes through an entire body assessment and restores, repairs, renews, and regrows new cells throughout your body. That is what happens when autophagy kicks in. So the benefit of a 24-hour fast is you begin to actually detoxify and restore your cells on a cellular level. So this is not just oh, I'm going to cleanse my blood, whatever that means. I don't know what that means. Or cleanse my liver or whatever other detoxes people claim that they're doing, right? No shade, but I'm just saying, if somebody tell you that something is a liver cleanse, you need to ask them, exactly what am I getting rid of? Can you tell me the specific chemical or hormone or thing that is in my liver, right? If they can't give you that, then you got to be like, I'm not sure if this is actually what you say it is. Anyway, side note on how to cut through the marketing versus the truth. All right. So, I just lost my Instagram, people. Sorry, Instagram. So hour 36, we have an even higher increase in autophagy and an even higher increase in ketosis, right? So remember, ketosis is when your body is burning fat as fuel instead of glucose, right? So when we eat carbohydrates, it turns into glucose in our system and our body uses it as fuel. So there is a difference here. It doesn't use it as a nutrient. Carbohydrates are not an essential nutrient. Your body, in lieu of not having carbohydrates, will actually use fat. So that is the reason why carbs. Human beings can live without carbs. We cannot live without fat and protein. So that's really important for us to understand in this process. Hour 48. What happens at hour 48 if you're able to do a full 2-day fast? All right. So at this point, at 48 hours, this is when your testosterone level increases. Ladies, don't get nervous. We all have testosterone. We all need testosterone. It is a fat burning hormone. Because men have more testosterone than women, that's actually one of the reasons why, on average, they will lose weight quicker because they have a higher amount of testosterone. So even though your testosterone level increases after 48 hours, one of the physiological differences between women and men that science has backed up is that even with an increase, a woman's testosterone will not increase at the same level a man's testosterone increases, right? So there's still going to be a balancing out because women have higher estrogen, which kind of keeps the testosterone in check. So a man's testosterone will skyrocket 500%, 1,000%. I think one study showed 1,200%. It will literally skyrocket, but a woman's testosterone would only increase maybe 100%. And it's not a permanent, right? So you're not you're not becoming a man, for lack of better terms. It is just what is happening in your body as all of your hormones begin to adjust to your insulin level being low, to autophagy happening, your cellular detoxification. It's a way for your body. So at this point, at 48 hours, theoretically, one of the reasons why testosterone increases as well as human growth hormone is because now you've gone 2 days without food and your body needs to solely depend on the fat in your body. So it has to figure out a way to break that fat down. Lipolysis must increase because your body is now okay, we're 2 days in, we're not getting any glucose. We need to convert and put our complete attention into converting this fat. So that is one of the reasons why at hour 48, all of this hormonal shift happened because your body is really focusing on now converting that fat into fuel. The other thing that happens when you're doing any fast, even if you're not doing an extended fast, even though today we're specifically talking about when you fast for more than 24 hours, what does an extended fast do to your body? Is you begin to balance your leptin and ghrelin hormones. So your leptin hormone is produced in your brain, and that tells your body that you're full. Your ghrelin hormone is produced inside of your stomach, and that tells your body that you're hungry. So when ghrelin hormone is high, you're hey, I want to eat, right? what happens when you fast? So here again, we're going back to insulin and why insulin is so important, right? Insulin is a domino hormone for leptin and ghrelin. When insulin level is high, you will actually get an imbalance of leptin and ghrelin, right? A lot of times when people have an addiction to sugar, meaning that they're eating lots of carbs, and I don't want you to think just like, oh, I don't have an addiction to sugar because, I don't eat cakes and cookies, but I love pasta. That's an addiction to sugar. I love bread. That's an addiction to sugar. Well, drinking orange juice every single morning has to be healthy for me. No, it's not healthy for you, and that's an addiction to sugar. Fruit juices in particular, is a healthy person's sugar. A healthy, put in quotation, person's soda, right? So, stop drinking juice. That's just a side note. Don't drink it. No, there's no circumstances in which you should be drinking juice, right? None at all. Don't drink it. So, leptin and ghrelin are your satiety hormones, right? It tells your body whether or not you're full or you're not full. What happens when your insulin level lowers, it actually allows leptin and ghrelin to balance out. And once you get to the 72-hour mark, in fact, your leptin levels drop and your brain tells your body that you don't need food. Right? So people think like, oh my God, if I go 3 days without food, I'm going to be so hungry, Once your leptin and ghrelin level starts to balance out, you're actually not hungry. And I know it sounds crazy, like, oh my God, 3 days with nothing to eat and I'm not going to be hungry? Yes, trust me on this. As I tell my clients, I'm going to get a t-shirt that says this: trust the process, believe the science. All right? Trust the process, believe the science. Once you get to that 72-hour mark. Now, when they looked at this study where they followed the body for 72 hours to find out like what exactly is happening to the body, one of the things that they were particularly tracking was people's insulin. So what was your insulin level throughout this time? And they found that most people had a 50% reduction in insulin level in that 72-hour period, and 70% of that 50%, right? So you're talking what, like 40% of it happened in the first 24 hours. So insulin reduction is a huge benefit of doing an extended fast, right? And so I'm going to give a side note and a disclaimer. I am not a medical doctor. If you have a diagnosed illness, please consult your healthcare provider and take the things that I am telling you for information and educational purposes only. So with that said, if you are attempting to fast and you are on medication for diabetes, either it is a pill like metformin or if it is actually insulin shots, you must take your insulin, your blood glucose before you take any medication. Intermittent fasting is a very powerful tool in both treating and reversing diabetes, and it is an immediate tool. So you must be conscious of what your blood glucose is throughout the entire time. And I would recommend that you find a medical doctor who is also well-versed in using intermittent fasting for people with diabetes, all right? And I'm specifically talking about type 2 diabetes. All right, 72 hours, 3 days. What is the big hoopla about doing a 3-day fast? The big hoopla about a 3-day fast is that it has been shown in research to literally restore your entire immune system, right? So when they looked at the immune cells, the way that the researchers described it is that first they looked at the immune cells in the body, your white blood cells, and they found that after 72 hours, they thought that they had decreased. They found a significant decrease in white blood cells inside of the body. But then they decided to look deeper in the body, right? So maybe it's not just in the blood. And what they found is that during the 72-hour fast, your white blood cells retreat into the bone marrow and they get fortified. And the words of the researchers was they come out like supercells. So they're basically retreating, becoming stronger. And then when a foreign virus is introduced to the system, the cells were able to attack that virus with more vigor and get rid of it much quicker than someone who had not been fasting, right? So this is one of the major benefits of an extended fast. And I'm saying this because I also want to point out a side note that the purpose of a 36-hour fast or longer is not weight loss. That is the big misnomer about doing extended fast. People think like, well, if I do a water fast for 30 days, then I'm just going to lose a whole lot of weight. You will lose a whole lot of weight, but it will not be healthy weight. Remember, weight is just one aspect. It's just one aspect of as a health indicator. It is not the only aspect of health indicator. When you see somebody losing weight, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are getting healthier because you don't know what other things is happening in their body. So we're at a 3-day mark. So what about if you go to 7 days? Or as the title of this is if you do a full 30-day water fast. So I'm going to say this just from a scientific perspective, because there are a lot of people that do these. I'm actually a part of some group that I never comment in because I just sit there with awe looking at people who are like, oh, I did a water fast for 6 months. I'm like, bruh, eat something. So that I do not recommend it. All right. But what research shows is that beyond 3 days, there's really no health benefit to fasting, right? So we're talking about going consecutively more than 72 hours. You are not going to increase lipolysis. Lipolysis actually maxes out about at the 72-hour mark, which means it doesn't increase more because you were fasting for 7 days, right? It actually pretty much the maximum amount of autophagy you're going to get is about at the 3-day mark. So there's no more benefit in detoxification. When it comes to weight loss, now we only have one study in which is referenced in terms of extended fast, meaning for more than 24 hours and extended longer than 30 days in terms of weight loss and the metabolism. What they did was they followed competitors on The Biggest Loser. Again, this is super easy to find through a Google search. And they looked at their metabolism. So The Biggest Loser was kind of like the TV show The Biggest Loser, right? I'm assuming that everybody know what that is. It was really kind of the longest and most public experiment on people's health and weight loss for a couple of reasons. Number one, these people were well tracked. I mean, when they got on The Biggest Loser, they calculated everything, every nutrient in their body, how fast their metabolism was going, where their cholesterol was, where their blood pressure was, where their A1C was, like everything was tracked. And they continued to track them throughout the time that they did the competition. And then they followed up with them after. So it was really a huge public experiment. And what they found for these people who significantly reduced their caloric intake, so we're not even talking about doing a water fast. These are just people who were used to eating 10,000 calories a day, literally, and they cut it back to 1,000 calories a day, right? So they're significantly reducing. Some of them were eating 500 calories a day, and they did it for a year or longer. all of these participants, their metabolism, meaning the rate in which they were burning calories, decreased by 20% after 1 year of being on an extreme diet. So what we learn from this particular very public, easy information for you to find is that going an extended period of time with little to no calories and not enough nutrients can in fact damage your metabolism. And there's no proof thus far that the metabolism actually recovers. So if your goal is to lose weight and to keep weight off and to be able to live a relatively healthy and normal lifestyle, doing a 30-day water fast for the purposes of losing weight is not a good idea, because you will end up making it harder for yourself to keep the weight off because your metabolism will be slower. So again, I do not recommend doing a 30-day water fast. I do not suggest it for health reasons. One, most people are not metabolically healthy enough and have sufficient nutrients in their body in order for them to not have ill health effects from going that long without food. Number two, if you're doing it for the purposes of weight loss, you're actually going to lose weight, but it will only be temporary weight loss, and you will make it harder for yourself to keep the weight off because your metabolism will be slower, up to 20% slower. When you start to eat food again. And so at max, if for the purposes of detoxification, a 3-day fast can be appropriate, but don't do a 30-day water fast. And I'm going to tell you, I'll be honest, it was kind of clickbait. Like, I just wanted people who were interested in 30-day water fasts to watch this video so I can tell you, please don't do that. All right. Clickbait. I admit it. All right. Okay. I think we got through everything that I wanted to mention here, right? So one of the other things, actually a question that I had been asked is there any truth to the amount of hours you fast should relate to your body type, right? Whether or not you're endomorph, mesomorph, whether or not you're thin, you're pear shaped, whether or not you're apple shaped. There's no research behind it. Everything is anecdotal, right? So technically, if you are apple shaped, then you are more likely to have a problem with insulin dysfunction and things like diabetes. And so really knowing what's happening in your body hour by hour and your insulin level is super important in terms of that. But I've seen that ad too. It's really something that somebody really made up. There's literally, intermittent fasting is relatively new in the science. There's a lot of research, but relative to other things, there's not a lot of research. There's a few issues that come along with intermittent fasting, and researching it is, number one, it's really hard to get participants to be compliant, right? It's very difficult for a researcher to say, hey, I found 1,500 people who's willing to do a 30-day water fast. Really difficult. And they stuck to it for 30 days. It just don't exist, right? So if somebody says, well, here's the benefits of a 30-day water fast, there's literally no research study. You may have been able to study one person who decided to do that for 30 days, but you can't extrapolate what happens with one person to an entire population, right? This is the reason why we need lots of people in a research study. The other problem with intermittent fasting in terms of research is, honestly, a lot of people don't want to fund intermittent fasting because, hey, who's going to make money off of people not eating? Right? Generally, the goal for intermittent fast for research is okay, we're going to do this research and we're going to figure out how we're going to make money from this, right? But who's going to make money when you tell people just eat less? Nobody makes money off of that, so nobody wants to fund it. But that is actually not true. Let me tell you how people make money off of it. Which I'm not mad at them. I think this is actually awesome. So the doctor who, or the researchers who did the research about a 3-day fast, resetting your immune system, they actually came up with like this boxed 3-day fast. They figure out what macronutrients and the minimum amount of calories or something like that, and they sell it to you for $250, and you just eat that stuff for 3 days. So hey, maybe we'll get more research around intermittent fasting if they can figure out a way to make money for it after they come up with the findings. You never know. Okay, people, that is the spill for intermittent fasting. Next week, we are going to do a 4-part series about ketogenic eating. And what is it? Why is it? What's the benefits? What's the harm? Here's a little tip. Did you know that the ketogenic diet was actually developed as an alternative to fasting? Mind blown. They actually looked at research around fasting and the benefits of fasting, and they were like, well, how can we get these benefits and also allow people to eat, right? So that is actually how they came up with the ketogenic eating, because they know that one of the main benefits of fasting is that your body goes into ketosis. And ketosis has many benefits, not just with weight loss, but it also improves brain function. It also helps to, as we talked about, create autophagy and a detoxification of the body. But they were like, we can't get a whole bunch of people to just drink water for 30 days. But we know if you eliminate carbohydrates, you can actually get into ketosis and still eat food. Eureka! Let's come up with something that allows people to do that. That's honestly the way a ketogenic diet was developed. So join me next week. Make sure that you share this video. Make sure you like it. Make sure you tag a few friends who can benefit from the information. And click subscribe. Click the little bell so that you will be notified if you forget that I will be here Monday at 11:30 a.m. and we're going to start talking about what is this thing called the keto diet. All right? I will talk to you then. You guys have a wonderful weekend in spite of this and despite of everything that goes on around you. Really try to stay positive and do something that is going to help keep you safe. All right? Assalamu alaikum.